A quick update on the W12 swapped S8. We've got the exhaust is fully done front to back. We're gonna not run a muffler for now and see how it sounds. I've got to pull the intake manifold back apart. I forgot to drill an intake temperature sensor after the intercooler, so we did that, had that welded up. And I've got to pull this side back apart and make sure there's no metal chips, get everything nice and clean inside. I was talking to somebody or a few different people on the Max ECU Facebook page, and they made the suggestion that the cam trigger looks very similar to the 1.8T Volkswagen cam trigger, and they're right, it does. So let's see if I can do all this with one hand here. So it sure does work now. And we do have a spark, so it the data here says it's good. We have spark data. Our timing light shows that our crank trigger is at approximately the correct angle. These W12s don't actually have a mark that I can see for TDC, so we had made one with the paint marker. It's not going to be super exact, but it'll get us in the ballpark at least. So we can do that. And tomorrow we're going to trace out which wires go to operate the fuel pump control module. I suspect it's one of these. So we need to figure out what that is, and then once we power up fuel, put the intake back on, we can give it a first start. So we'll do that tomorrow, and then if it starts, we'll get all the E2Ts run, get the couple little last things that got to be tied up. I still have to run a wiring, make a quick little wiring harness for a flex fuel sensor for our fuel line, and then I have to run the two LSU 4.9 sensors. There's one on left bank and right bank. Those have to be wired into the ECU, and then I'm using an external controller to do 4 ADV sensors, which is already wired up and done. I just have to install the intake so that can all go back home. And then once I hear it start and everything seems good enough, like it's correctly functioning, then I'm going to start tidying up the wiring and go from there, because right now it is an absolute mess. But once it gets loomed up and bundled, you're not really going to see anything until we decode the CAN. We're going to use this as our, our shift control we'll just use on this button for now. Eventually, I want the paddles to work. I want to do the CAN decoding. If we can get the factory shifter to work, that would be really nice. If not, if we can at least get the paddles on the steering wheel to work, that would be good. And then we'll just chip away at this thing and get one fault at a time off the dash, and then find out why the radio is no longer working. So maybe something's unplugged somewhere or whatever, but it's been a long project. There's a lot going on in this car, so it's very likely that something is not hooked up. All this wiring is getting tucked inside the glove box, so even though it looks like a mess, once it's loomed up nice, you're really not going to see it. So that's where we're at. Hopefully tomorrow I'll have a first start video, and then that's pretty exciting. We do have to pull the rear subframe back out to make modification for the CV shaft. So we're using the Bentley diff, which sits farther back in the subframe than the factory, and it's causing one of the CV shafts, the rubber boots, to slightly rub on the subframe. So we have to pull the subframe back out to make some clearance for the boot so we don't wear it out. I'm assuming under high speed the boot might swell a little bit, and I don't want to have issues with that once the car's done. I'd like to have it not come back for a while. So that's where we're at right now. And we've got an RS7 in for a coolant leak. We just did another RS7 earlier today, did brakes on that, so we put some gyro disc on it. And then we have another RS7 in here getting an engine repair. This one has a damaged piston, so we got to change out a piston and get the heads repaired on it. So the heads are going out to a place now to get them fixed up, and then we'll get this TRX wrapped up tomorrow too, and just kind of chipping away at life.